I'm Ross Austin. I'm a patrol officer with the Wausau Police Department, and well, this is a story of the stuff they don't tell you and what happens behind the scenes. So on April 30th, 2019, I was just working my usual patrol beat, the downtown Sector B on the east side of Wausau. It hadn't been a horribly busy day. I mean, it was a dreary April day, but we were steady enough. I was at the police department finishing up some reports. It was my 10-hour day, so I was going to be done at 4 o'clock. At about 3:30 in the afternoon, I heard over the radio injury car crash that was occurring just outside of the city limits, more or less a jurisdictional overlap area where there's Marathon County Sheriff's Office, the Everest Metropolitan Police Department, and the Wausau Police Department all have a piece of their jurisdiction touching at that intersection. What the dispatchers said, I clearly recall as one P&B, which is pulseless, no breath, and one agonal breaths. Listening to the officers that were responding from Everest Metro and the Marathon County Sheriff's Department, they were all far away. I was at the Wausau Police Department in the parking lot working on getting ready to clean up when I heard this come out, and I knew it wasn't far for me. So I asked if they wanted me to start responding, considering I was so close, and was advised yes. I remember as I was responding, I was having squad issues with my siren. So whenever I hit the siren button of my squad, it would actually unlock my patrol rifle. So as I'm driving code, I'm also balancing my patrol rifle until the lock re-engages and listening to the radio at the same time. As I'm coming up to the intersection, because there wasn't good information on if it was in the intersection or on one side, I'm coming over the hill on Town Line, and I look up the hill to the east of the intersection, and I see one car parked haphazardly in the roadway, and I couldn't see the other one. I see the one car with one party in the car, and there's a look. After a while, you go see enough death in this job where you're just like, okay, he's not going to make it. Where's the other car? And as I step out of my car, I hear a female voice screaming, "Help." Just nonstop, help me, somebody. So as I'm running to the voice, I look over at the other car, and I'm just like, yeah, the male party that was driving that one is not going to make it. So I keep going to the voice, and I find the other car rolled over on its roof in the south ditch. The front windshield is smashed out, and there's a female laying on the roof screaming for help. So I lay down, now that I think about it, stupidly underneath the engine block of the car as it's resting on its roof to try and talk to the female. And I know I can't do a whole lot just because of who knows what kind of injury she has. I don't want to try and make things worse. she's trying to crawl out of the car. And I'm telling her, hey, you need to relax, I'm here with you, we've got this, please, you got to stop moving. I don't know if she knew I was there or not. I like to think she did, but I don't know. I hear one of the fire engines from I believe it was Safer, arriving on scene, and I got up out of the ditch to go get them. And so when they get over to her, I kind of step out of the way and I start taking control of the scene because I'm the only patrol officer at the scene so far, and we've got people, just citizens unaware of what's going on, driving through the scene. So you got one car that's still in the roadway, you got debris everywhere, you've got a fire engine in the middle of the road, you got squad cars that are slowly coming in, taking over most of the road. As other officers are showing up, most of them I've worked with on calls for one reason or another. I'm just kind of starting to guide them, but I'm taking that step back because I know I have no jurisdiction on this and they're going to have to do what they are required to do. The med crew requests a helicopter to come to the scene. One of the helicopters wasn't flying just because of the weather that day, and the other one, because of the delay from asking one to respond, took a while to get there. I remember looking at one of my other partners from Wausau who had shown up to the scene, and I made some comment along the lines of, I think this is going to bother me later on. Just something about it really just didn't feel right. I can't tell you how many crashes I've been to, injury, non-injury, how many death scenes I've been at. It's just something about that one bothered. I knew it was going to bother me. If I looked at my body camera, I'd probably be shocked with how little time I spent next to her. I think it may have been a minute at most, but it felt like forever. Knowing I can't do anything, especially with all these injuries that she may have and I don't know about. I don't want to make it worse for her. When the helicopter finally shows up, it's flying overhead, we've got a landing zone set up. The med crew on scene who had opened the car and was able to turn it over said that she was not going to make it and called the helicopter off. It would turn out that even if the helicopter would have landed, they told me later, it took them another 45 minutes to safely cut her out of the car based on how the damage was. And we didn't know that at the time. My lieutenant shows up, and at this point it's 4:30-ish. So I'd been there for about an hour. And he's just like, hey, there's not much else you can do here. Go home, relax, just take a breath, because it was our Friday, so we were going into off days. As I got back into my car, it had gotten turned around, so it was facing west towards the intersection again, and I'm looking down and it's all blocked off, and there's news cameras everywhere. And I was so mad. I just, I know they're trying to get some information out there so people can know where they can and can't go, but I just remember thinking, what if that was your family member? Would you want news cameras here gawking, all these people slowing down to look at everything? Because we don't really have any concealment. We're up on the hill, clear as day. We're like a billboard. As I'm leaving, I see the reporters doing their thing, and they have a job to do, but I was just so mad about that. Get back to the police department, and Officer Chittum catches me real quick, and he's just like, hey, are you okay? And all honestly, I was numb. I really didn't know what to tell him, and I said, I don't know, and I left. I went home. Well, I dropped all my equipment and I went home. I remember making it through just into my house, and I look down at my hands and they're just shaking. I just like, what the hell? I don't know what's going on. So I sit down, and that was kind of the last thing I needed, where I broke down. Like, I didn't know why. I didn't know what could have done this. I just knew there was something off right then. My wife, who was working at home at the time, comes upstairs because she's just like, it's quiet upstairs. She heard me take a few steps in, but that was it. And she asks what's going on, and I don't think I told her for 2-3 days, because I didn't know how to tell her. You know, she was asking me questions, and all I could hear was the female screaming, "Help me." That continued for a couple weeks, where it didn't matter what I was doing, laying in bed, listening to music, or talking with somebody. All I heard was her screaming, "Help me." So when I was finally able to collect myself, I can't remember if I got a phone call or a text. It was Officer Chittum again, being like, "Hey, do you mind if a couple of us come over?" Me in kind of a spot of, I don't really know what I want, what I need. I'm just like, sure. And, you know, they made the comment of, "Hey, you know, it's your birthday, let's have a couple drinks." I'm just like, sure, fine, whatever. I grab a bottle, some glasses, so when they show up, we sit around the table and we're talking, just not about anything in particular, nothing important. I couldn't tell you what the conversation was anymore. But I know just having people be there helped. I had my cell phone on the table next to my glass, and I don't know how many text messages I got from people just being like, "Hey, what's up? Hey, what's going on? Are you okay? What do you need?" And it was still all fresh and new, where I don't know. Captain Baton calls me, and he's just, he's asking what's going on, how I'm doing. I mentioned, I've got some people over, we're having a few drinks, trying to kind of relax, and no big deal. He's just like, "Well, do you need anything?" I don't know. He's just like, "Well, think about it. Take the night, give me a call tomorrow." Okay, fine. I mean, in the back of my mind, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. It's just one of those, I'll get some rest, I'll be good to go in the morning, move on with my day. My kids come home from daycare, and my oldest hops up on my lap, and he tells me happy birthday, and I didn't know what to tell him. I just said hey, and kind of left it at that, because talking was hard. The rest of the night, I couldn't tell you what happened. I know I got a mess of text messages from people asking how I was, what they could do to help. And it was a bunch of, I was honest with them. I don't know what I need. I'll let you know if something else comes up. And again, in the back of my head, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not gonna tell them if I need anything. I'll be fine. The next day, it's my off day. I'm home with my boys. I'm getting ready just for the day, getting cleaned up, brushing my teeth, all that. And all of a sudden, the shaking came back. I attribute it to the fact that I was on my own with my thoughts, just kind of, I was left to my own devices, I guess is how I'd phrase it. The shaking just comes back, and like it was just all over. Like, I can't even describe it. I sent a text message to my wife. I'm like, "Hey, I think I may go in and see Captain Baton today instead of calling him." So I take the long drive into the police department. I go to his office, and Chief is in there. So I know my place. I'm not going to get in the way of that. I'm just going to let them finish their conversation. But Chief sees me, and he's just like, he pretty much ended the conversation they were having and asked how I'm doing. And at that point, I remember having this clear thought of, I'm more than happy to answer that question, but I need to sit down, because what little strength I had left was crumbling quickly. I was just on the verge of breaking down again. Again, I don't know why, it's just how it was. Captain Baton asked me how I'm doing, and that was the end of it. I couldn't talk, I couldn't do anything. I just kind of sat there and was trying to pull myself together as best as I could. I don't know, that may have been 5 minutes or so before, and he just asked, do you want some help through our EAP program? And I'm not responding. I'm just kind of there. And he's just like, well, let's make a phone call real quick. Okay, fine, whatever. I'm just kind of here. He calls, sets me up with one of our EAP counselors to kind of work through some of this. I went to a couple of those and talked about it, and eventually I was able to kind of talk about what happened and how it bothered me, and why it did, we don't know, but it did. During that entire time, I took a few days off from work listening to the radio just brought me immense tension just all over my body, because I just didn't know what the next call would be, if it'd be another one of those or something else. I took up some old hobbies that I've used in the past to kind of distract me. Carpentry, and in our mudroom, we had a closet that was absolutely useless to us. So during this time, I gutted it, and I built an entire bench and backing area, and it's still not done. It's 2022, and I still haven't finished it, but you know what? I've got a large majority of it done. I've got the bench done. I just haven't put up the shelving on top yet. That was a much needed distraction for me. Having the support of my coworkers, from patrol officers all the way to the top, doing what they can to help me was huge for me. I honestly don't think I probably would have continued this job if I wouldn't have had that kind of support, because it broke me in a way I could never have imagined would happen. I've seen countless things, but that's the one thing that, up to date, has just left me where I think about it from time to time. And every once in a while I still hear the screaming, but it's not like it used to be. As a field training officer, I talk with all my trainees about this incident and kind of tell them, hey, this probably will happen. You're going to have something that you've seen 100 times, and just that one time, it's different. And I let them know that there's resources. We're all here for each other, knowing that something silly like this shouldn't have happened, but it did. I wanted to become a police officer to help people, and knowing I can't help, it bothers me, there was just nothing I could do. I was stuck. It's just that helpless feeling. Everyone in public service wants to help, but there's times we can't.